Every good business decision is backed by data, but data is only as good as its source. If your CRM data is outdated, you are flying blindly. So in this video, we are going to build a system that will automatically update your pipeline and follow up with your leads whenever it is necessary. Let's get started. The first node we will need in this system is on a schedule, and the trickle interval depends on your CRM. This means like if you are sending emails within your CRM, then you can trigger this workflow every single day. But if you are going to use this workflow to also send emails, then I highly recommend you trigger this workflow during only work days and work hours, just to make sure that your emails will be seen by your lead. Then the next thing we want is to grab our CRM. In this example, I'm using Google Spreadsheet as my CRM. The CRM looks something like this. I have 5 records inside it. So I'm going to search for Google Sheets, get rows, document from customer relationship management, and for the sheet, I'm going to grab only the deals. Then let's trigger our workflow to get all the variables we will need from this item to work with. The next thing we need is switch node. So basically, every stage will have its own action attributed to it. For example, for those that have scheduled call, we want to send them reminders. Those that have been closed, we are going to send them welcome email, as well as probably are going to onboard them automatically, and so on. So inside this switch node, we want to grab in this stage. In my case, I'm going to create just one route for the call scheduled, and we will see that moving forward. But in your case, you can create as many routes as you want based on the number of stages you have inside your pipeline. For this system, I'm going to search for filter. Basically, I want to filter only leads that have already scheduled a call, and that call is already in the past. So basically, I want to notify either the agency owner or the project manager, asking them how the call went and whether that person have showed up or not, so the automation can update the CRM and send follow-ups when needed. So for the condition, I'm going to swap it to expression now, and the now is after date time, bring this one, call schedule date. Now let's trigger the workflow again. We have one item, this means one lead that had already scheduled a call and its call is in the past. Then next we want to search for loop over items, because we want to process every lead separately. Then the next thing we need to include is a human in the loop. And this is the most important aspect inside this workflow. Basically, we want to notify the person in charge, whether it is the agency owner, sales rep, project manager, asking them how the call was with that lead. In this example, I'm going to use Gmail, but of course you can use Slack, Telegram, Gmail, whatever tool you prefer. I'm gonna send this to myself. And in order to customize our message, we need to trigger the workflow in order to get all the variables we need from loop over items. So let's trigger the workflow again and deactivate this one. I'm going to use this copy and customize it with the person's name and the company name. Then you want to come to response type and you want to switch it from approval to custom form. Then click on add form elements. Let's call it call status. In my case, you want to switch element type to drop down. Then inside the options, we are going to include different things that could happen during that call. I'm going first to include all these options, then explain them later on. These are the options that I've included inside this dropdown, which also reflect what could have happened during that call. This means like that lead could have been closed, lost, moved to discovery, or didn't show up. And based on one of these responses, an action will be taken. Now let's trigger the workflow and see how this email will look like once it lands on the project manager or the business owner's email inbox. Okay, I'm going to pin this data here. As you can see, I have received the email CRM update, and inside it, once I click on respond, we will see all these options that we have created earlier. So in my case, I'm going to choose closed one, submit. Let's pin this data here. The next thing we need to include is another switch node. Basically, we want to include all the things that could have happened during that call as mentioned previously. Okay, so I've created the 4 path that we have seen earlier on call status, but I'm gonna just use the closed one as an example. Of course, we can replicate the same process across all these different paths. Now we will work on the closed one path. In other words, what would have happened if that lead has been closed during the call. And in this case, we want our CRM to be updated. And if you want, we can also send a welcome email to that client. So let's search for Google Sheets, update row. Let's select our spreadsheet and the sheets as well. Column to match on, we want to match based on the row numbers, and we'll get those row numbers from loop over items. And for the fields that we want them to be updated, in this case, let's do close date, now dot format. Let's do the same thing for stage update date. And for the call status, since I have these options, call status, call scheduled, no show, reschedule, and call completed. In this specific case, it will be call completed. And for the stage, we are going to update it to closed gone. As you can see inside our CRM, this is the lead we are working with. It is on the new lead stage and the call status is call scheduled. And if we also want to send a welcome email, we can click on the plus here, search for Gmail, send. On the 2, we want to bring in the email from loop over items. Subject line, let's say welcome For the welcome email, I'm going to use this example here. By the way, if you automatically send welcome emails like these ones, and there are certain tools that your client needs to subscribe to, I highly recommend you include them as affiliate links inside the welcome email. This way you get additional income without adding any extra charges in your client's end. Now let's click on add option, append and an attribution, disable it, sender name. I'm gonna include my name here. Now let's trigger the workflow and see how everything will look like inside the CRM. That's me, like the spreadsheet, as well as inside my other email inbox. So since we have pinned this data, let's execute the workflow. Okay, so our CRM has been updated as well as the email was sent. Let's take a look first at our CRM. As you can see, this record that was in a new lead has been switched to closed one, and the call status call completed. And if we check the close date as well as the stage update date, it is our current date. Now let's take a look inside my email inbox. And as you can see, we have our email, welcome aboard. And this is the template we have used earlier. You can literally repeat these steps that we have taken right now across all these paths that we have created earlier. For example, if the lead didn't show up to the call, you can trigger this workflow to update the CRM and send an email to the lead to get them to reschedule to another call. And once you are done working on a specific path, you want to bring in the end here to loop over items to do the same thing across all these records that you are going to pull from your CRM. I hope you guys have learned something from this video. If you did, please feel free to drop a thumbs up because it really helps me a lot. And if you have any questions about this system or about any in general, you can leave a comment below and I will try to respond to you as soon as I can. See you on the next video.